A 23-year-old kid, 50,000 screaming fans, and a race that nobody, not one analyst, not one expert, not one person in that paddock, thought he could win. Now picture the moment it's over. He crosses the finish line. He's shaking. He can barely speak. The trophy is in his hands, and somewhere in that crowd, a group of Navy sailors are tapping their wrists. A celebration they started before the race even began, like they already knew. And then, his own teammate opens his mouth, and everything changes. One race, one shocking win, one comment that turned a career moment into a full-blown controversy. This is the story of what really happened at Naval Base Coronado. And trust me, by the time this video is over, you will understand exactly why this moment is going to define the rest of the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season. Stay right there. This is NASCAR Report Today. Before we go any further, I need to ask you something. How many times have you watched a race, felt the electricity, seen a moment happen in real time, and then had nobody around you who actually understood what it meant? That's why this channel exists. NASCAR Report Today is built for fans who feel this sport in their chest, who understand that a lap 73 pass isn't just a pass. It's a story that's been building for years, who know that what a driver says after a race matters just as much as what happens on track. If that sounds like you, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the bell, because every single time something like this happens in NASCAR, we will be right here breaking it down the real way, with no fluff and no filler. Now, let's get into it. Naval Base Coronado, located just across the bay from San Diego, California. This wasn't just another race on the NASCAR calendar. This was history. For the first time ever, NASCAR held a Cup Series race on an active United States military installation, a 3.4-mile, 16-turn circuit carved through the streets and airfields of one of the most iconic naval bases in the entire world. 1,000 fans packed the venue on race day alone. Across the full weekend, 125,000 people showed up to witness something none of them had ever seen before. The energy was electric. The stakes were massive, and the race that unfolded inside those walls, it matched every single bit of the electricity in the air. But before the green flag even dropped, there was already a moment that, looking back now, felt like it was written by someone who already knew the ending. During pre-race driver introduction, a group of United States Navy service members walked on stage alongside Heim. And without any announcement, without any prompt, those sailors started tapping their wrists, mimicking Heim's trademark victory celebration. Before the race had even started, nobody in the crowd thought much of it. By the end of the afternoon, those sailors looked like prophets. To understand how wild this win truly was, you need to understand who Heim is right now and where he was just 1 year ago. Heim is a part-time Cup Series driver in 2026. He runs a limited schedule with 23 Text Racing, the team co-owned by Denny Hamlin and NBA legend Michael Jordan. He entered this race with only 12 Cup Series starts behind him, most of which came on ovals where experience matters enormously. But here's what makes him special. Heim is the reigning NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series champion. In 2025, he didn't just win the Truck Series title, he dominated it in a way that made people inside the Toyota organization start talking about him in a completely different way. He's been handling Toyota testing, simulator work, development duties that speak to exactly how highly they view his future. But the Cup Series is a different world, and part-time drivers, no matter how talented, almost never win. Now go back exactly 1 year. In 2025, Heim's first Cup Series road course start was supposed to be the Chicago Street Race. It was his birthday weekend. He was excited. He was prepared. His team failed to qualify. He was knocked out of the event before it even started. On his 22nd birthday, he called it, publicly, the worst birthday of all time. That failure stayed with him. He talked about it openly in the days before San Diego. You could hear it in his voice. This wasn't just another race weekend for him. This was personal. And that matters, because when you understand where he came from, the humiliation of Chicago, the grind of the Truck Series, the patience of development, what happened in San Diego hits completely differently. Going into the race, Corey Heim was not a factor in anyone's calculations. Shane Van Gisbergen started from the pole. He was the prohibitive favorite. His Trackhouse Racing teammate Connor Zilisch, one of the most respected road course talents in the entire garage, was right alongside him. Tyler Reddick, the 2026 Cup Series points leader, was locked in as a top contender. Heim started 13th and fell back to 20th within the opening laps. Here's why, and this detail matters. The first 2 tire sets his team put on the car were scuffs from qualifying, the worst rubber in the hauler. Crew Chief Booty Barker kept radioing in, "Stay patient, the car will come alive. Trust the process." Heim trusted it. And then, lap 31 happened. On a restart, Austin Hill and Connor Zilisch were running side by side at the front. Hill carried too much speed into turn 1, locked up his brakes, and drove himself and Zilisch directly into the outside concrete wall. Zilisch hit hard and bounced straight into the path of Shane Van Gisbergen, who had just backed out of a 3-wide situation half a second earlier. Van Gisbergen had nowhere to go. He drove straight through the wreckage, terminal damage to the front of his Chevrolet. Van Gisbergen, the pole sitter, the favorite, finished 38th, 1 point for an entire weekend of work. When asked about it, Hill didn't deflect. "That one's on me," he said. Van Gisbergen? He was considerably less calm. "I'm filthy," he said. And honestly, he had every right to be. Just like that, 3 of the biggest threats were gone before the halfway point. Tyler Reddick moved to the front, led 9 laps, controlled the race, managed his tires beautifully. Everything pointed toward a Reddick win, but rear tire wear became a factor. And Corey Heim, now on his best set of rubber for the first time all race, started closing. Lap 73, turn 2, Reddick slips. Just barely, just a fraction. That's all Heim needed. The 2 teammates ran side by side through turns 3 and 4, neither one giving an inch. Reddick threw a crossover into turn 5, his last real chance. He scraped the wall, made contact with Heim's car, and then, and this says everything about Tyler Reddick's character, he backed out. He gave the spot back. "I ran him straight in the wall," Reddick said afterward. "That wasn't right. I wasn't going to pass him for the win that way, especially a teammate." Shortly after, Reddick suffered a flat left front tire, fell to 25th. His comfortable points lead over Denny Hamlin collapsed to just 8 points. Corey Heim led 3 laps total, 3, and he crossed the finish line 10.365 seconds ahead of second place. His first career NASCAR Cup Series victory. In just his 13th start, the number 67 Toyota had never been to victory lane in the 78-year history of the NASCAR Cup Series. Heim put it there in his 13th attempt. It was the first 1-2 finish in 23 tight racing history, and it gave Toyota their 4th consecutive Cup Series win, the first time they had accomplished that feat since 2017, only the 5th time in their entire 20-year history in the sport's top series. To put that in context, Toyota entered Cup racing in 2007. In nearly 2 decades of competition, back-to-back-to-back-to-back wins had only happened 4 times before this. Heim's reaction after the race said everything. "I'm speechless," he said. "I couldn't believe it. After stage 2, I just took a deep breath. I had high expectations coming into this race, even playing field for me. You don't see that every day for a young driver. Just kind of reset and went after it. And then came the full circle moment that genuinely hit hard. That's all full circle for me. Going from one street course just crushing my life to probably the best day of my life here a year later. Just funny how that works sometimes." Chicago crushed him. San Diego elevated him. Denny Hamlin, who co-owns 23 Texans and finished 14th, walked into the post-race press conference with an ear-to-ear grin. "Really surprised," he said. "Truthfully, really surprised. But if you'd asked me mid-race, I wouldn't have been surprised at all. I got to race around him enough to know he had plenty of speed." Tyler Gibbs, president of Toyota Racing Development, pointed to the deliberate development path as the reason this was always coming. He's going to have these opportunities, and he's made the most of it today. Heim has already been announced as a full-time 23 Decans driver for 2027, piloting the number 35 Toyota. The timeline just got moved up, at least in the minds of everyone who watched that afternoon. Now, Bubba Wallace. This is where the story gets complicated, and this is the part most coverage got wrong. Wallace had one of the most emotionally complicated race days you will ever see from a NASCAR driver. He started 12th, worked himself into second place within the first 10 laps. He was fast, he was in control. And then, on lap 19, his right front wheel detached from the car and rolled down the track. The cause? His pit crew failed to properly secure the wheel nut during a stop. Wallace received a 2-lap penalty. He sat stationary in his pit stall while the rest of the field raced. At his lowest point, he was 2 full laps down with most of the race still to go. What he did next was genuinely extraordinary. He earned 2 free passes under caution, drove intelligently and patiently through the field, and crossed the finish line in second place. The best road course result of his entire Cup Series career across 40 previous road and street course starts. That is a remarkable achievement. And Wallace knew it. He praised Heim genuinely. My body language and facial expressions will not show it, but I am really excited for Corey and Booty getting him back to victory lane. Being a winner in the Cup Series is something we all want to achieve. And to do it in his 13th start, it's pretty special. But then came the comments about managing expectations, about how hard the Cup Series is, about how it has a way of humbling rookies, about how drivers get spit out. They were subtle, but Heim heard them. And what Heim said in response, about letting his driving speak, about not needing validation, about coming back to Sonoma ready, told you everything about where this internal 23 Dragons dynamic is heading in 2026. On June 24, 2026, NASCAR made it official. Rear tire changer Adam Hartman and jackman Nathan Ricketts from the number 23 team were suspended for the next 2 Cup Series races, Sonoma Raceway and Chicagoland Speedway. The loose wheel on lap 19 was ruled a violation of sections 8.10.4a and d of the NASCAR rulebook. Both crew members cannot return until the weekend of July 12th at Echo Park Speedway outside Atlanta. Wallace, who already had to battle from 2 laps down just to finish second, now has to run 2 of the most competitive weekends of the regular season without 2 of his most critical pit crew members. The crew that already cost him a potential race win will be incomplete for the next 2 weeks. The broader playoff picture is equally dramatic. Shane Van Gisbergen entered San Diego sitting inside the playoff bubble, knowing that the road course stretch, San Diego and Sonoma, was his best chance to secure a spot in the chase. He left with 1 point and a 38th place finish. He is now 17th in the standings, outside the bubble entirely. Sonoma Raceway is the final road course before the playoffs begin. For Van Gisbergen, it is no longer about strategy. It is a must-win situation. Win or go home. That's simple. Tyler Reddick's points lead, which felt comfortable coming in, is now razor-thin. 8 points over Denny Hamlin with Sonoma and Chicago both ahead. And the 23 Duberton organization, despite placing all 4 cars inside the top 6 late in the race, a stunning display of team depth, is now navigating a fractured internal narrative, suspended crew members, and a rookie who just put himself on the map in a way that changes the power dynamic inside the garage. Let's step back for a second and appreciate what this win means in the full history of NASCAR. Part-time drivers winning Cup Series races is exceptionally rare. In the modern era of NASCAR, the sport is structured in a way that heavily favors full-time, fully funded operation. The testing limitation, the championship point structure, and the depth of competition make it extraordinarily difficult for a driver running a limited schedule to beat the best in the world on any given Sunday. The last time a part-time driver generated this level of attention from a single result was when Aric Almirola and underfunded teams occasionally stole headlines. But even those moments rarely came with the combination of youth, trajectory, and team backing that surrounds Heim. At 23 years old, winning in your 13th Cup start places Heim in extremely rare company. For perspective, the sport's all-time greats, Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, all took considerably longer to notch their first Cup victory. Gordon was a prodigy who won early, but even he was running a full-time schedule for a premier team. Heim did this part-time, on a street course, against the full field, and the fact that it happened at Naval Base Coronado, a first-of-its-kind venue that NASCAR had never attempted before, adds a layer to this story that the history books will not forget. So here's where we are. Corey Heim, 23 years old, 13 Cup Series starts, is a winner. He's going full-time in 2027. and he just sent a message to every driver in that garage. Bubba Wallace finished second in the most remarkable recovery drive of his career and left San Diego with a cloud over his team and questions that have no clean answers. Tyler Reddick gave up a win for a teammate, then lost his tire anyway, and his points lead is suddenly very, very fragile. Shane Van Gisbergen needs a miracle at Sonoma. A must-win is exactly what it sounds like. And the 23 Texas Racing Organization, the most fascinating team in NASCAR right now, is heading into the next 2 weeks, carrying more internal tension than any championship-contending team should be carrying. Everything is escalating. Nothing is resolved. And Sonoma Raceway is next. This is NASCAR in 2026, and this is NASCAR Report Today. If this video gave you something, a perspective, a detail, a storyline you didn't have before, then you already know what to do. Subscribe, hit the bell, drop a comment below and tell us, were Bubba Wallace's comments out of line, or was he just a frustrated competitor telling the truth? We'll see you at Sonoma. Don't miss it.